Cambodia. Welcome to Cambodia Business Week. I'm glad to be back after having a couple of weeks off. Not because I was relaxing, but because we have quite a bit of things going on in the country and a lot of great business happening in Cambodia these days. So today we have a great opportunity because we're going to speak to one of the managers of the top hotels in Cambodia, which is the Sokha Hotel. We've had guests on before to talk about the Himawari and the Sofitel. Now we're going to learn about the Sofitel. The Sokha Hotel today. Today's guest is Jancloes Benoit. I had practice. And welcome, Jancloes.
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me, Anthony.
Right. Okay. So we're very pleased to have you today. We really want to learn more about that beautiful building across the river.
Okay.
And all the locations that you have in Cambodia, which are in Kampot. I'll let you tell me.
Yes. So the Sokha Group is basically located in prime locations. Well, first the business city center, which is in Phnom Penh. Then we have the one which is more vacational, which is on the south coast. Sihanoukville.
It's a beautiful hotel, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing hotel.
Nice beach.
And even the facilities are wonderful. Great pool, a fantastic fitness center. The restaurants are fantastic. It's the place to stay in Sihanoukville. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And on the way to Sihanoukville, basically, there's one which is the Bokor, which is not yet well known. But it's up from Kampot, about 30 minutes down a good road, and it's a beautiful location. It's majestic.
You're right. Not many people know about that location.
No, and it's 2 hours away,
right.
and there's so many beautiful things. Okay, the waterfall is environmental. There's a huge lake where you can actually have sporting activities, but the view, the scenery. I think there's a difference in temperature of about 8 degrees. So you want some cool air? It's beautiful, really. I would invite anyone on weekends. It's 3 hours, perfect. And then you've got the cultural hotels, which is of course Angkor Wat, which one of the pioneer hotels was Sokha Angkor, and now they just opened a new one, which is basically Sokha Siem Reap, another 700 rooms. So yes, we're about everywhere in prime locations, and I think we're still growing. Steadily but surely.
And some big plans. We'll talk about those in a bit. Sure. First, could we get a little background on you, because we want the audience to know about you. So where are you originally from?
Cambodia.
No, you don't really look Cambodian though.
No, I actually arrived, my brother was working for the UNTAC on the media. He was actually filming the elections in 1993, and at the time I was at the hotel school in Lausanne. So I hadn't seen my brother in quite a while. So after I finished my hotel school, I came to spend vacation, which was supposed to be 3 weeks.
Cambodia does that to us. It really does. I mean, we come here for work, let's say, on an assignment for 2 or 3 years. We end up staying here forever. I'm a great example of that. Or we just come for a visit to Angkor Wat and we don't want to leave. So it's a wonderful place to be. This happened to you. So you came for just to visit a family member, and 20 years later, you're still here.
Exactly. I met with, at the time, the Intercon, Michel Laverne, which I think is still here in the hospitality industry. He was the project manager and the general manager of the Intercon opening. So I was there as a consultant for front office, and basically it snowballed. I think there was the coup. After the coup d'etat, I think he was hired to open the Sunway, so I moved with him to the Sunway. Then from Sunway, I moved to Imarawi. And Imarawi, I was assigned the hotel business, but I met at the time Anthony, which was the chairman of FCC Group.
Right.
And he heard about me being in the hospitality. And one day I want to mention this I was beating him in tennis. And and basically he dropped a ticket and said, this afternoon I want you to see this place. And he showed me FCC in Siem Reap. So we did the opening. Then I became group director of FCC. Before actually working for Sokha. And Sokha, basically I was put in Bokor for about 2 years, which we did some amazing stuff. So it was, yeah. So, and now I'm in Phnom Penh at the Sokha.
It was an amazing career, but let's get back a little
Yes.
bit. So you're originally Belgian.
Originally from Belgium, but
But
yeah,
we talked about this. I spent more time in Belgium than you did, right? Even
correct.
though you're a Belgian,
Yes.
right? So how did that story happen?
Actually, both of my parents are doctors, and basically my father, as mentioned earlier, he was Secretary General to WHO, so he was moving a lot in developing countries. So we were actually a lot in Africa the first 9 years, I think, of my life.
Which countries were you in Africa?
Well, my brothers were born in Kinshasa, so we went from Kinshasa to basically Dakar, Senegal, and then from Senegal basically to the World Bank. I think my father was moved at the time. He was a doctor, World Bank to Washington, D.C., and Washington, D.C. to Geneva, where he was hired as WHO at the time, until I studied the École Hôtelière de Lausanne.
So you speak many languages, which is great in the hospitality industry.
Yeah, to enter École Hôtelière de Lausanne, you actually need to have actually 3 languages, which at the time I didn't have. So I was actually sent on Bolivia, on the Altiplano of La Paz, to work with the children from the streets to actually learn Spanish. Okay. So it was interesting.
Probably very interesting slang Spanish as well.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's I mean Belgium's a country where I believe it's at least 3 languages, right? You have French, English, and Dutch.
Yes.
Right. So if you were living in Belgium, this wouldn't have been a problem.
Right.
But you've lived around the world. What was some of the more interesting places that you lived?
Short time or a long? I mean, for me, Africa is a special place in my heart because of the I don't know. It's for me, it's like a smell that you cannot. It's like a perfume you cannot take out of your memories. So for me, Africa was special. Every place for me is quite original and special. But for me, Cambodia is the place I stayed the longest in my life, and I think there's a reason for it. I think it's a beautiful country, beautiful people, and I think a great opportunity in terms of development. So, place to be in the next 10, 20 years.
So we talked about you came here to visit your brother, and then you started your career in hospitality. But you actually went to a quite famous school for hospitality.
Correct.
Which I'm not even going to try to pronounce because my French is terrible. So I'll let you tell me a bit about that famous school that you went to and what that experience was like.
Well, the École Hôtelière de Lausanne at the time, I think we were only 700 students. From the latest news I hear, they've multiplied this by 10. So,
It's located in an incredible place in France, right?
Correct. In
Lausanne.
Switzerland,
Switzerland.
Switzerland. It's basically above the lake, above Lausanne.
Excuse me, I'm American. Our geography is terrible.
But there's an American school on the other side of the lake, on the French side, I think.
So there is a French side of Lausanne. And I wasn't off then. Okay, all right. I don't have to apologize then. But it's a beautiful place. And what was it like actually learning over there? I mean, I always find it very interesting that people are in the hospitality industry going to these schools because I know they're really tough. And the teachers or with the chefs and the people you learn from are, because it's all about customer service and most of these and perfect food, right? So what was some of the interesting experiences or people that you met at school?
It's multi-international. So from African countries to Asian. I mean, it's and that's what makes the beauty of it is that.
And your teachers, I mean, these people are pretty perfectionists from.
They are perfectionists. They have the logistics. That's the beauty of those hotel schools. Is I remember that show kitchen, which basically is like a theater arena, and you've got mirrors. So even if you're at the back side, you can see anything almost like with a loop, and everything is done. So the equipment, the facilities, and of course they're perfect. There's a few things. The most important thing, and like you were saying, is come on time. Better come on time.
Yeah.
If you have to cut potatoes for a few hundred students and you don't come on time, you'll know why. Okay. But yeah, no. But in general, yes, the hotel school is a good learning curve. I still believe that what you make most of it is in practical life, and that's a good thing about those hotel schools is that you do 6 months theory, 6 months practice. So I got to learn a lot in my practice from different departments. So it was interesting, yeah.
Okay, let's get back to the wonderful Sokha. So you talked a little bit about that you have these multi-locations, which I don't think even people that live in Cambodia realize how many locations you actually have. But of course, there's one thing about the Sokha that sometimes it makes it a little bit difficult is the location.
Right.
Which we're getting around now because we have a ferry. I don't think like we talked about. A lot of people don't realize that there's a car ferry that comes there. Correct?
There's a car ferry which is
So
operational.
it's not that hard anymore.
No, it's not hard.
Very easy to get there.
Yes, and I hope people take the chance to try it. And I understand ferry is sometimes a perception, but you try it once and then you'll take it every time.
All right. So the facility itself. So it's how many stories high is the building?
So we have 20 floor. It's a 744 rooms. We have 196 apartments. Those apartments are ranged in 3 different categories. So basically, so 2, 3, 4, 5 rooms.
Yeah, those are service apartments. Right?
Service apartments. We have. I mean,
not for sale. Only to you guys rent them out.
Yes, it's rent. If you want to buy, you can contact us, but we need to discuss. Yes. So 196 apartments. Very good deal. I think we have at the moment a special promo at $900 basically.
I saw it was 800.
898
right.
to be exact.
That's a 1-bedroom, I assume.
1 bedroom, kitchen, living room.
But what does the service department offer? It's different than just having an apartment, correct?
Well, yes, we offer basically the cleaning, the amenities on 3 times per week. Of course, all the services that the hotel provides in terms of room service. If you need to invite friends, we can cater for them. If you need business meeting, we can arrange things for you. So basically, it's all the hotel services into the comfort of your home, basically.
Hey, it's wonderful. I mean, for that price, it sounds wonderful because you have access to the pool and the gym and all that as well, or is?
Yes, I mean the gym. And coming back to the ferry, is that the swimming pool, the peacefulness you can. This is a hectic. Sometimes with the traffic, the horns, the work, the pressure. You take the ferry. It takes you 10 minutes. You arrive in the comfort of your home, and then suddenly, you feel at peace. It's quiet, it's peaceful, and if you want to get back in the buzz of the city, you just take back the ferry, and within 5-10 minutes you're back in it.
Right, and the ferries I think we're running about a half hour during the day, right? Every half hour or so.
Every hour, yeah.
Okay, all right. So the 740 rooms.
Yes.
And you have that beautiful restaurant on top, which has this fantastic view of Phnom Penh.
Right.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that restaurant. It's amazing.
So this is the Tonle Sap restaurant. It's a restaurant terrace which has a beautiful view over the Royal Palace, and it's 180 degrees, if not more. And we offer basically Cambodian Western fusion food with a barbecue buffet every Friday and Saturday. And it's a very pleasant place to be because you always have a small breeze. So it's a good location.
And the best view in Phnom Penh that I've seen. If you're looking across the river, that is a fantastic view.
Yes, for the water festival, I definitely recommend the boat race. It's a beautiful place to be to watch.
Okay, and the facilities in the hotel. It's got how many restaurants?
So we've got about nine F&B restaurants. So it goes from the Champa brasserie bakery area to Chinese restaurant. We have an Italian, we have a Japanese, we have the Wave Club, we have KTV, we have Tonle Sap. So, yeah, okay. We're quite
good.
Good variety.
And you have a lot of parties there, that's for sure.
Yes, we are actually. One of the main forte that Sokha Phnom Penh has is organizing weddings. So definitely we have a lot of banquet space, more than 3,000 square meter. Now a bit more, 3,200.
And people like to do it on the top floor as well.
They have the options.
I've been to a couple of parties there. It's been amazing at nighttime.
Yeah,
and also around the pool area.
The pool area is fantastic for some events. We've got the 19th floor, which basically 19th and 20th floor, which gives you incredible view. Okay. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the hotel industry here, because this is becoming more and more competitive. Obviously, there's a few five-star hotels here.
Right.
You're one of them. What does it take to be a great five-star hotel?
Well, the five-star criteria, there are different standards depending on countries. The way I see a five-star hotel is volume of rooms, so land surface area, volume of rooms, the number of activities provided. Like in Switzerland, one of the five-star criteria is you need to have more than 6 activities. And I think based on my criteria, so I think Sokha Phnom Penh is holding the grounds for a five-star hotel. And then, of course, we go into cleanliness, quality standard, and consistency of service, which is something that we work on an everyday basis. But I think, yeah, we're thriving to achieve that on a day-to-day basis.
So you're in different markets. Phnom Penh is, probably a very different market than Siem Reap and then Scenic-Ville. So how do you compete? What makes you different than the other hotels in each of these places?
So can you repeat?
Even though we're in Cambodia, there are different markets from being let's say Angkor Wat area, being in Siem Reap, competing with hotels there and competing with hotels in Phnom Penh and competing with hotels in Scenic-Ville. So what makes you different in each of these places?
What makes us different? Well,
I mean, what as opposed, let's say, a traveler wants to come to Phnom Penh, they have choices like the Himawari or the Sofitel or your Raffles, your hotel as well. What differentiates you from the other hotels in Phnom Penh?
Okay, well, I will not do like Coca-Cola, but one thing for sure, and something that is underrated is, and I've been in a lot of hotels in Cambodia since I've been here, and one thing that I know Sokha has, which I think is the quality of the bed, the mattress.
That always counts.
For me, it counts a lot because
it's having a comfortable bed. Because I guess most people don't spend a lot of time in the hotel, but when they do, it's usually nighttime to sleep. So
exactly.
That's a very important aspect.
And a good quality bed brings less complaint. Brings a happy person to breakfast, and if you prefer a great breakfast, you're in for the good. No, but yes, and that's something. Not only it's the size. I think we have the maxi size in every of the properties, and it's the quality. And that's something I'm not taking it away from any of the competitors, but definitely I can say that we have made the right choice in the mattress. It sounds.
No, it's important.
Yes,
it's important. And the other things like customer service.
Yes, I believe.
What's the culture of the hotel in terms of customer service and other aspects? I mean, just grooming. How you go on certain like Singapore Airlines. Everything is very regimental. The glass is placed a certain way, the napkins.
Oh, you meaning like Nadal putting the?
What are your people? How do you train your people to interact with customers, to give the customer a great experience?
Okay, well, we have, that we can go back into the orientation program and the culture of our hotel, which is actually a manual, which has basically service guidelines and all this. So yes, I think we have certain criteria that are very special to Sokha that we put in place when it comes to basically greeting, dealing with customers, happy or unhappy, and as well as our product, hygiene and different steps and methods on making sure we.
And what makes a good employee to you?
A good employee, for me, is somebody who's got the love and passion for the game. Like I said, if you come if that's what you want to do in life, you want to be in the hotel industry, well, you've got already 60% in your pocket. The rest will come naturally, and because you're interested and you love what you're doing. You will remember, you will basically naturally grow. If you do that just because it's a stepping stone to something that you want to do, I suggest you find directly what you want to do and don't try it, because it's a very demanding industry. There's no 2 days off per week. I don't think in the last 21 years I had 2 days off per week. So it's something you need to have the passion and love for it. Otherwise, you're not gonna make it.
And you live in the hotel, right? Because this is something. Do you live in the hotel?
Yes.
Yeah. This is how is that? I knew a lot of hotel managers, GMs, and living in the hotel. Is this
Like the
is
2 o'clock
high?
message.
Yeah. I mean, you're always on call for sure, but also is it kind of like you don't get out of your work life environment? You're always there. Is it difficult?
At times, yeah, you just need to go away because you don't realize that you're getting into a routine and you're dealing with management and staff, which actually every day go back to their housing, and you're still in the boat looking at the machine, and sometimes you just need whoa. So it's good to step back, but at the same time, as GM, I mean, it's good to be in house sometimes dealing with issues, and I take WEF for example, the World Economic Forum that we were hosting. You need to be there because it's a non-stop.
You didn't get to sleep.
I was not the only one.
Well, I did want to talk about that a bit. So, you hosted the World Economic Forum 2017 here in Phnom Penh, which is a huge event with a massive amount of security and world leaders coming, and also the business people coming from around the world, the politicians coming from around the world. How does it all start when you heard that you were doing this? How does the preparation all start?
It's a long time ago. I think because the World Economic Forum works with a middle company called Publicist, and I think they came for a repérage, I would say, and there was, of course, several hotels selected. I think one of the criteria of our selection was, of course, the volume hotel, because they could actually put almost everyone into the hotel.
So you were 100% full, for sure.
Yes, we were 100% full during those couple of days. So it made it quite practical for that company to use Sokha as a whole. Of course, they had
Do you have the most rooms of all the hotels?
Yes.
The 740 is the most, right?
I believe in Phnom Penh so far, yes.
Okay, that's a good advantage.
Yes, it does. Yeah. No, it was so that was the main, I think, advantage. And then so we started with Publicist more than 8 months ago on a day-to-day email basis. They have a lot of criteria, as you were mentioning, Anthony, about the security. So they have standards, even the environment, when they come and they do their setup, all the tools, because they have their team is, I mean, the team that came, they basically did the setup in less than 72 hours and then took a flight to go to South Africa, or I think South Africa or Tanzania, which they had to do another 72 hours and go straight to China for another one.
Amazing.
So it's a team which basically, they know it.
It's like the military.
Exactly. They come in, they do it, and they leave. But for us and for staff, which basically are, I mean, I would say it's the top of the international standard in terms of organization.
The security must be very interesting because you had world leaders that stayed at the hotel. I mean, I think were they all of Asian?
Yes, it was mainly we had. I think we had Mr. Duterte, the Prime Minister Duterte. We had the Prime Minister of Vietnam, Laos, of course, Prime Minister of Cambodia. But yes, and all this was in collaboration. So the government is in it because the government actually sponsored quite a lot of the World Economic Forum. But in terms of, so everything, security, the gala dinner, we had to look at basically how the movement of the crowd, how in case of security, how it would go, even in terms of the menu design, because different countries, some vegetarian, some which basically halal. So there was, to make sure that we did not have to deal with those requests because we were going to be too busy, to make sure that we had a certain, and they know about this, so they came to us with basically their standards of operation, which we needed to adapt to. And I think with our team, yes, there was some, I mean, the staff had to have their ID given a month in advance, and because we had part-timers, because they were going to need a pass, there was so many different small bits and pieces we needed to put together. But at the end of the day, I think from what I hear, everybody...
Yeah, it was a fantastic success. Did you have to staff up a bit for this? I mean,
well, we have sister properties.
Right. So you brought in people from other... Right.
So every department brought their top senior level to assist in some areas. So that definitely made it a lot more easier.
Okay.
Yeah.
But great success.
I hope so. From all I hear, is great so far. So,
Well, I always have to ask this question of hotel GMs, and I'm sorry if I ask it, but I worked in the hospitality industry for a little bit when I was in college. I worked in some five-star restaurants, and I always found the hospitality industry to be quite interesting people, to say the least. So what was some of the more interesting experiences that you've had? I imagine the World Economic Forum, there must have been some as well.
actually, the World Economic Forum, it was like it was in a box. It was almost in terms of history of funny events. I think I go back to my first work, which was and you mentioned it
Yeah,
earlier.
your first job is always your most interesting, but yeah, go ahead.
So it was in the Movenpick in Movenpick Airport in Geneva, and every summer they have this music festival. So we have celebrities coming, but every summer they had this person from the Emirates, which would come with his Boeing. He would bring his lamb, he would bring his cooks, and he would take basically the executive floor and the junior suite floor, the most expensive floors, and he would put all his lamb into the junior suites, and he would cut their throat, and I think it was more than 20 floor, but 20th floor, the linen basically from the room attendants. When you clean so many rooms, you have a chute which goes all the way down. So they use that chute to put the linen, and it falls in a big basket.
Right.
And those people from the Emirates, they were using it as basically a dishwasher. They were taking the plates. So imagine from the 27th floor, and you would hear. So if you're on the basic floor and you will hear a splash, the glasses, the crockery. So basically, it was going all down. It was crazy. I mean, and I remember that. Yeah. So basically, when they left, they paid for the renovation of the 26th, 27th floor.
Like having the Rolling Stones or the Who in the.
Exactly. Yeah.
Who's the most interesting person you've met in the hospital? That is another question I always find interesting. That being so long in hospitality, you sometimes come across some very interesting celebrities.
Celebrities. Well, I mean, at our age, if I say the names, we would probably remember, like Samantha Fox.
All right, she was a singer, I believe.
She was a singer and quite
attractive.
Quite attractive, and I remember at that time.
She's still attractive if she's still alive.
Yeah, I remember I was telling the front office. I say, when she arrives on check-in, please call me. I want to see her. And I remember they called me and say, she's here at check-in. And I went flying to the reception, and I get to the reception. Where is she?
You said, can I check you in?
Where is she? Mm-hmm. And she was actually next to me, but she was so small.
Yeah, that happens. Yeah. I once bumped into Madonna when I was in New York, and before she was famous, she was just beginning, and I was always surprised how small she was. She was a little thing, yeah.
Madonna is small?
Yes, very small.
Crazy.
We're ruining a lot of dreams. Right? She's 50-something now. So,
right.
All right. Well, it's been great to have you on.
Well, thank you, Anthony.
But we always ask one last question. Very important on Cambodia Business Week.
Okay.
And this should be easy for you because you've been here 20 years. What do you love about Cambodia, and what would you like to see improved?
Okay, what I would like to see improve the traffic.
It's only going to get worse.
No, for me, I mean, I tend to regret the progression, how a country develops and how we forget culture. If I remember the good old days, the respect between the young generation and the elderly, I think, and that's something that I see disappearing little by little from the moment I was there in the 90s. And I think that was one of the things which was beautiful about Cambodia is that tradition, respect from youngster to elders, and that was the whole beauty of it. Today, it seems that with the modern technology and things, they tend to be a little bit less caring in terms of culture and traditions. So I would definitely try to bring this back, because that was, and in terms of hospitality, you could see it. Now you need to learn, that you need to teach how to smile but when you arrived in 1990, 93, 94, all the hotels, you had that natural big smile, which made you, wow, it was so beautiful at that time. And today it's more like a learned behavior more than an inner behavior, and all this due to some fake factors I call today. But one experience I remember when we were opening Sunway, and that's the difference between Europe mentality and Cambodia, is that we were 48 hours from opening the hotel. The elevators were not working. We had to bring the TV up and the mattresses and everything. They did not ask anything. Because you gave them trust, they gave trust back. And what we did in 48 hours was incredible. You wouldn't be able to ask this from any person in Europe. You see what I mean? Their time frame, they would, punch in, punch out. They just went out and did it. And that's what I love about Cambodia is when there's love, there's no limits. And that's beautiful. And that's why I'm here and I plan to stay.
Both of us. Thanks, Jancloes. We really
Thank you,
appreciate you
Anthony.
being here, and thank you very much for all these wonderful insights. We're going to return back in a minute. We have our second guest, so we'll take a quick musical break, and we'll be back shortly.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you. Welcome back to Cambodia Business Week. We're back on the radio, and we're back on social media. It's great to have our second guest, Christopher Peter Lee.
Yes.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Welcome to the show. We're going to talk a little bit about, I guess, training and coaching today,
Yes.
which is your specialty.
Yes. It is.
Besides being an author,
Thank you.
and besides fishing,
Yes.
a lot of things. All right, let's start with the company which you found
Yes.
and you run. Or you're the principal. It's HEDC
Yes. International.
International.
Yes.
Sorry. Tell us a bit about this company.
Well, it is not a company. It is an NGO that I founded in 1999, I guess. Yes. The reason for that is because during that time I've been working with the Australian project and been working with UNDP, and it was very difficult to find a training institute or training organization that fill our need. So we decided to develop this HEDC International in order to, one is to fill our own need, but the other thing is perhaps to, I'm being a little bit arrogant here, is by giving example to the rest of them, how to conduct training to satisfy the need of the clients, of the organization. So that's how the organization was developed. It is called HEDC International. HEDC is Human-Earth Development Center. The reason why -Earth rather than human and earth, it is because we believe we cannot continue developing the human and leaving the earth behind, or as an afterthought, right? And I believe the reason for the problem that we have right now regarding the earth crisis, is because we tend to focus too much on the human and without paying enough attention to the earth.
Okay. So tell us a bit how you go through your training and the curriculum you offer,
Right.
and what you're doing here in Cambodia.
Initially, I came to Cambodia only as a backstop. The person who was supposed to do the advisor was unable to do the job, so I was asked to just come in to backstop for a while. And so 3 months become 1 year, and 1 year become 21 years. I've
So
been here.
it's not by purpose today. We've had two people on that said that today, but our previous guest also came to
Right.
visit his family and ended
Yes.
up to be here 20 years.
Yes.
How did this happen to you? That you came to do a short-term job
Yes.
and ended up being here 20 years.
I fall in love with Cambodia and the Cambodian people, and then I see great potential here, especially with the young people. And what the first thing I noticed is in Cambodia, unlike in other places that I work, like Indonesia and the Philippines and so on, here there was two pick, like the very young and the very old, not the very old, but old. And so I thought that if we develop the young one, eventually they will come to replace the older one. So if we do our job properly with the young people, we can actually develop them a lot faster than in other countries where there is a dilution effect in the middle, right? And I thought, at least that was my thought.
Right.
And that's why we spend a lot of our effort working with the young people. And so some of the people that I worked in, say, in 1999, now has become a very senior member of the World Bank, Asian Development Bank, and they become a senior member of the UNICEF, UNDP. So that make me happy a little bit. But my job in the organization is an advisor. Yeah, we have a Cambodian director, we have the Cambodian manager, both are women. So my job is to advise, and I'm also the person that developed the curriculum and become a kind of the quality control, if you like.
Okay, so you said it's an NGO.
Yes.
But it is Effective Training Center, effectively,
It is,
right?
yes.
So for a listener who's interested in learning about your curriculum and actually getting trained, how do they go about that?
Well, let me talk first about the focus of our training. Our training basically focus on leadership. So everything to do with leadership. It is, we don't do the hard skill, but I'm hesitate to say that leadership is a soft skill, because soft skill means, leadership is a very tough subject. Right? So anything to do with leadership we do. That's including, the first thing that leader must do is to develop their own character. Like the Chinese philosopher Confucius said, before we can lead a nation, we have to lead our family. But before we lead our family, we have to lead ourselves. So building personal character is very important part of leadership. And then transformational leadership, and then all the kind of practical skill leader must be able to do, including planning, including communication and facilitation skill, including critical and creative thinking, which is usually are not included in this leadership course. But I think as the future coming, in the future, this is what needed mostly. As population increase, resources is going down, we need to be more and more creative, especially the leader in solving problem and solving conflict. So conflict resolution is part of the leadership skill, and bringing people together and making them work together is part of that. But we also have most of our training is about 3 to 5 days, but sometimes client asks us to conduct in 2 days, and we can do that.
So you do it for companies?
We do for companies.
So it's a commercial business to some extent?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
In fact, we have trained, we have provided training to many of the private sector banking, including ANZ Bank, Philip Bank, First Finance, Satapana Maruhan Bank, and all that. And also big company like Laurelton Diamonds, and then all the other.
So it's not effectively a school then, it's more of corporate training?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so you get companies that ask you to do this training.
Yes.
What's in demand now for training? What types of courses do they ask you to do?
Leadership is still one of the thing. Many people would like to have how to transform the company to become more and more effective, more and more responsive to the need of the clients. Another thing that much in demand is how can we motivate our staff, and that is always in demand. My advice, recommendation to our client is that we cannot motivate your staff. But what we need to do is to help your managers to stop demotivating your staff so much.
It's a reverse psychology. Well, let's back up a little bit, because this is to me very interesting, because we could get more of insights into employees in Cambodia and managing employees in Cambodia, which is all tough for us. It's no secret that Cambodia is probably at almost full employment, if not at full employment. We are seeing wage inflation. We're seeing demand for benefits, for sure. And we're seeing just tremendous amount of mobility. There's not a lot of stickability, loyalty to a company. We kind of think in the Western world that you start with a company, and this was maybe the older days, but maybe you stay 20 years or 30 years. I stayed 17 years at a company, and it seems like a lifetime. But that's impossible in Cambodia. It seems to be that very rarely do people stay for any long period of time. If you have somebody for 2 years, you're lucky these days. But most of the CVs you see when you're hiring people, it's I've been here a year, I've been here 9 months, I've been here 15 months. How do we keep people and get some sense of loyalty and family in a company here in Cambodia? Because it's just not happening.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that, because the next training that we're being asked to do is simply that, loyalty and commitment from one organization.
I think I find, I mean, we have, the companies that I have, I find people to be actually quite competent.
Yes.
And very good at their jobs. I don't experience a lot of, we used to rank people in the West, you know, you have your 10% that are great, fantastic. You have your 70% sort of in the middle, and then you had your 20% at the end, which were poor. But I don't find that's an issue in Cambodia. Most people generally are pretty good. I mean, you don't have that lower 20% or that big part of being average.
Right.
So you are getting talent in your company, but they don't want to stay.
Yes.
And the reason that I always tell you is because I want a new experience. So how do we say to say, well, what about career development and staying with your employer?
Yeah.
And maybe someday you could be a manager, or you know, a senior person, or even stock options or a shareholder.
Yeah. I think it's unrealistic to expect people to actually stay with your company when they're also thinking about their families, you know. I always said the most important question people ask is WIF, what's in it for me, right? So we have to be able to address that. And it's difficult to compete in the marketplace where people are willing to pay more than your company.
And that seems to be the biggest problem, is this wage inflation, which we don't talk about much in Cambodia. It's not headline news, but the fact, I'll give you an example. I had somebody 15 months ago that left us. I mean, we pretty much, let's say, doubled the salary in a year that they worked for us. Went and made a double salary somewhere else and came back for another 50% more, just in a period of 3 years. This happens.
Yeah.
And you 10% raises, a 5% raise is meaningless.
Yes.
You know, it's a 20% raise or a 40% raise. So how do we manage businesses and keep costs under control and keep employees?
And usually by jumping from one company to another, you actually increase a lot. You know, staying at the company, like you said, is on incremental.
Yeah, you could double your salary.
Can double, and so on. So this is always the $64 million question: is how can you keep in this kind of environment? How can you keep your people with you? In our organization, almost all of them have stuck, for more than 10 years with us. That's 15 years in that. I always said that you cannot keep them back, except for one thing: relationship. I think the critical thing, when people stay with you, it is not because of the money. It's not, sometimes it's not even because you provided more technical skill, more experience. They can get that anyway. Usually when they stay with you is because they are loyal, because they have good relationship with the management. So my advice always is that manager have to make sure that they have good relationship with all their team.
And that's challenging culturally here.
Yes.
Because certainly it's a very hierarchical society. So when you are in a management position, there's a degree of arrogance in managers here.
Yeah. I think, well, I know this is not popular to say this about leadership, but to me leadership is all about love, all about service. When you can show that you love your team by not only caring about their work, but caring about their families, caring about what they do. What is your goal? How can I help you to achieve that goal? Yeah, you achieve our company goal, but I'm trying to also help you to achieve your goal. When these two merge, when the company goal and the personal goal merge, you may be able to hold them a bit longer.
Okay. Well, it's interesting. I think, again, being a hierarchical society, It's sort of in a sense, a class system in a company that if you're a manager, you're a much higher level. And really, it's human resource management is very new here, and how to develop talent and how to treat employees with benefits and encouragement and motivation is all new. So you're in the right field. There's no doubt about that.
I agree with you in terms of the older generation of Cambodian, that kind of hierarchical, almost patronage system exists. But for many reasons, and one of the reasons probably is what happened during the Pol Pot period, this is not as strong as I seen probably in Thailand. In Cambodia, this is less so, especially among the younger generation. I have seen very, very kind of
there's no doubt the younger managers a great degree of humility.
Yes.
And that works really well.
Yeah.
That's why I think the younger entrepreneurs that have companies here, they do have quite loyal people.
Yes.
So it is about humility to some degree.
Right. Yeah.
A little more of a flat organization.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest lessons that I learned, I think it called from the book called Leadership Jazz or something like that, is that we have to make ourselves vulnerable to the power of our team.
Let's talk about some of the people you come across. This training is becoming a booming industry here, and for good reason. I guess what we're talking about is companies trying to be competitive and also to develop their talent. But when you sort of talk about leadership and taking charge and being enabled to Cambodians, again, some of this must be relatively new. How are they embracing it, or is it a foreign concept? How do you get them on board?
They're embracing it for sure. We already trained more than 300,000 people here in Cambodia alone. Now more and more of our training is required in Myanmar, in Thailand, in Laos, and lately I just completed 2 training in Indonesia for ASEAN Secretariat. So these are all the same. Where there is this problem of hierarchy. They're embracing it. The way we do it is, whenever possible, we actually encourage everybody to learn together. In other words, sometimes organizations say, we would like you to train the manager first, and then we train the staff first. I said, no, if possible, why don't we mix it so that they understood each other. They're on the same page, as you like. And that will help a lot, because by understanding that, hey, my manager actually know what we're talking about, they're less likely to be able to hide behind information, if you like. So they know each other.
Okay. So besides leadership, what other areas do you focus on?
We focus on education. We focus on parenting. I love doing parenting, because to me this is kind of a softer part of leadership. Parent actually CEO. I always said, as a father, a mother, sometimes you have to act like a CEO, you're chief executive in your family.
So this is outside corporate training.
We do private training, but sometimes university also invite us to conduct training on parenting, for example, for the academy. Can I just say something? In all these things, in parenting, in the education, like we teach teachers and we teach probably corporation, there is one theme that runs. That I believe the greatest model we can use to develop our organization is the universe itself. The universe is probably by far the only sustainable thing I know, right? And the universe becomes sustainable because it obeys certain principles. If I may, there are 5 principles. Everything in the universe, the forest, the ocean, including a nation and corporation, must continue to improve, continue to change. Number 1 is change. Number 2, differentiation. We must not discriminate. We must we must embrace differentiation. So managers must be able to to listen to the staff of different ideas. Yeah, there must not be discrimination, including like a toilet for managers and toilet for staff and things like that. And the other thing is unity, that all the different part of a system, like in cooperation, people have different skill, different salary level. They must work together as one. That's the most important thing, because the system is defined by the unity, oneness. But so to protect this oneness, the number 4 principle is self-regulation. That everybody from CEO down to security guard must be disciplined. They must self-regulate their behavior, because if this is not happening, the system will break apart. And including that is accountability, transparency, right? I also would like to add that in this self-regulation, we also now have to start focusing on our relationship with the earth, with the environment. Right? And so if we can do this 4, continue changing, differentiating, unity, and self-regulation, if we can do this well, we can now do number 5, which is expansion. All system, from the forest to the tree, from the trees to the forest to the ocean, must continue to becoming more. In business, we call it probably franchising, or expanding to different part of the world. But we need to be able to do this 4 first before we can do number 5. That's where the greatest profit come from, number 5. And so, whether it is parenting, whether it is teaching the high school or primary school, whether we as CEO, if we obey this 5 principle, the organization or the system will grow. And if we don't, it will collapse.
Well, thank you for that. It's great. It's a great philosophy. And I thank you for coming on the show. We always have that last question we ask, which is, what do you love about Cambodia, and what would you like to see improve?
I love Cambodia about the people, right? What I like to see improve, I like to see the young people starting to become more and more active in taking a leadership role. And one of the most important, leadership is about responsibility. So I think my passion is about the earth, the environment. So I would like young people as a leader to take more and more control, take more responsible about healing the earth, starting with Cambodia first and then the rest of the world.
That's great. Climate change, we have to really address that. It's our children's future, our grandchildren's future.
Definitely.
So. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for being on the show. It's been
a
pleasure.
Thank you.